In the blazing heat of a remote jungle village nestled between emerald hills, a mighty wild buffalo stood still at the edge of a dried-up river. Its thick hide dripped with sweat. The cracked earth beneath its hooves offered no moisture, yet the buffalo did not drink. It stood stock still, as if rooted to the spot. Its head was high, nostrils flared, ears swiveled, eyes distant. The villagers, scratching their heads, wondered why the powerful beast was standing idle. They had seen many animals come to the river in the desperate hope of finding water, only to trample over each other in the thundering thirst. Yet this buffalo seemed unfazed. Villagers approached cautiously, unsure if the animal was ill or simply tired. Some said it was madness to get so close to such a wild creature. Others argued that the buffalo wouldn't be so calm if it were mad. This calmness was different, almost peaceful. It didn't seem to care what the humans thought. Finally, an elder who knew the jungle's secrets and spoke the language of the wild broke the silence. "It's showing us something," he whispered, his voice raspy with age. No one believed him at first. It made no sense. Why would a buffalo lead them anywhere? Especially not to water. But the buffalo stayed still, its gaze fixed beyond the trees by the river. And slowly, some villagers started nodding their heads in agreement. Perhaps the elder was right. Maybe the buffalo wasn't just standing there. Maybe it was waiting for them, trying to tell them something important. But what? Well, the buffalo didn't wait long. It took a step back into the forest. Then another, and another. It walked slowly, deliberately, glancing back every few meters, as if checking if they were following. The villagers exchanged nervous glances. The elder gestured for them to follow quietly. As they went deeper into the forest, the buffalo disappeared into the thick bamboo thicket. The tall stalks brushed against their skin as they pushed aside the leaves, creating a tunnel of green. The air grew damp, and the ground soft beneath their feet. The buffalo emerged from the bamboo grove and continued on, moving swiftly now, but still calmly. The villagers struggled to keep up, their path growing increasingly difficult through the undergrowth. Then suddenly, half an hour into the trail, they heard it. A faint, muffled sound. A weak cry, not human, but not entirely animal either. The buffalo stopped at a patch of disturbed soil and turned its head toward the sound. It stood there for a moment before stepping aside, revealing what was hidden beneath. Tangled vines and collapsed leaves concealed the deep pit. It was perfectly round, smoothly dug into the earth. Inside, curled into a tight ball, was a young leopard cub. He was barely conscious, covered in mud and struggling to breathe. His leg was twisted awkwardly. The villagers gasped. The cub looked no older than a few months, small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. How did the buffalo know? Who would have thought a tiny leopard cub could survive such a fall, let alone be discovered by a buffalo? But there he was, weak and scared, yet still alive. For a moment, no one spoke. The sight before them was too shocking. An enemy, a predator, helpless, left for dead. The leopard cub whimpered again, his cries echoing through the trees. It was a sound that stirred something deep within the villagers, a sound that transcended their differences and touched their hearts. An old woman stepped forward. Her wrinkled face, usually creased with a kind smile, was now etched with concern. Gently, she reached out a hand to touch the cub's matted fur. He flinched but didn't bite. There was no fight left in him. His eyes, green as emeralds, reflected their own humanity. With makeshift ropes made of vines, they pulled the cub out of the pit. He was lighter than they expected, so light that one man could have carried him easily. But they were careful. Each movement was slow and deliberate. As they lifted him, they felt the weight of the task settle on their shoulders. Once out of the pit, they wrapped him in a dry piece of cloth they found nearby, making sure he was comfortable and warm. Then, with the cub nestled among them, they turned toward the village. Behind them, the buffalo waited patiently, watching them with an intensity that was hard to read. When they reached the village, the news spread like wildfire. In every corner of the forest, in every hut, around every campfire, people were talking. No one could believe what they had heard. A predator trapped, a buffalo that led them to it, and villagers who rescued both. The elder sat by the river, lost in thought. He had seen many wonders in his lifetime, but this day, this moment, was different. It was a turning point, a shift in the balance of nature. He closed his eyes, remembering the buffalo, the way it stood at the river's edge, the way it walked, the way it waited. Suddenly, the buffalo emerged from the trees, shaking its head, ears swiveled, eyes bright. For a moment, it stood there, watching the villagers with an intensity that made them uneasy. Then, as quickly as it arrived, it vanished into the trees. Moments later, the buffalo returned. It walked slowly toward the river, dipped its head, and drank deeply. The sound of rushing water filled the air as the buffalo quenched its thirst. It drank and drank until its belly was full. After the buffalo left, everyone started to ask questions. What had happened to the leopard cub? What would they do with it? Some wanted to kill it, seeing it as nothing but a dangerous wild animal. Others argued for mercy, pointing out its youth and helplessness. The debate raged on, but the elder raised a hand for silence. "We will let the buffalo decide," he said, his voice echoing their own uncertainty. And so they waited. Days passed. The wound on the cub's leg healed, leaving a thin white scar. The cub began to explore his surroundings, taking tentative steps, then running, leaping, chasing butterflies, and playing with fallen leaves. The villagers watched him from afar, wondering what the buffalo would do when he returned. One morning, the cub limped back toward the trees. The villagers held their breath. Would the buffalo come? And if it did, what would happen? They waited, watching. Suddenly, the buffalo appeared from the bushes, silent and steady. It glanced at the cub, then lowered its head and nudged him gently. The cub flinched at first, then relaxed, leaning into the buffalo's touch. The villagers gasped. Was this the end? Would the buffalo eat the cub? They watched, horrified, as the buffalo nuzzled the cub, guiding him back toward the forest. And then they saw something unbelievable. The buffalo turned and looked back at the village, then vanished into the undergrowth. The cub hesitated, glancing back at the village one last time before disappearing after the buffalo. News of this event spread far and wide. In every corner of the forest, in every village, on every mountainside, it was whispered, something in nature had shifted. Enemies weren't always enemies. Sometimes, instinct is not about survival alone. Sometimes it's about protecting balance. That wild buffalo, driven by something deeper than fear or logic, had chosen to act. It had saved a life, bridged differences, and shown them a new way of seeing the world. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The cub grew stronger, healthier. The villagers saw him sometimes. A flash of green fur, a glimpse of a powerful stride. They knew he was being watched over, not just by the buffalo, but by the forest itself. The elder smiled, watching the young ones play. He remembered the buffalo, the way it stood at the river's edge, the way it walked, the way it waited. He understood now why it had called them, why it had shown them the cub. It wanted us to see, he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. It wanted us to understand. They all stood there, united by a moment in time, united by a bond that transcended species, differences, and fears. They were connected by the whisper of the wind, the rustle of leaves, and the distant call of a leopard. If stories like this move your soul, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our channel, Jungle Echoes Rescue and Mystery, where the unheard voices of the wild finally speak.